Hoffaday, what's up, everybody? These are your 5 tips for better improv and better soloing. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe, and we got more videos coming up. Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is fourths, right? Harmonizing your melody lines in the right hand with fourths, and also playing fourths in the left hand. So let's go try that. Let's start with a simple idea. The chords we're going to use are E flat major 7, going to D minor 7, and then to G minor 7, then to C7. So let's start with a simple melody line. Let's harmonize that with fourths. So that's harmonizing your lines in the right hand with fourths. You can take that and practice that for years and still not master it. Obviously, I haven't mastered it yet, but I'm working on it, so yeah. Let's talk about fourths in the left hand, too. What I like to do is the McCoy Tyner thing, right? Play the bass note as the bomb, and then come up for the fourth in the right hand, right? So I'm using pretty much the same fourth there for E flat major 7 and for C7. We'll use that for D minor 7. And then let's try it with the melody line. Right? So fourths are great. You can practice that over so many chords, so many different arrangements, and yeah, they sound so nice. They almost sound like hopeful, right? Especially when you're doing with the right hand. It gives it more of like a hopeful feeling. Very unique characteristic. I love fourths. Okay. Let's move on to the next thing, which is developing your ideas, right? So you want to be able to come up with a simple idea and maybe repeat it a couple times, move it up, move it down, just develop it and see where it can go, right? Generally, you want to develop it and resolve it nicely, but you could also develop an idea and take it to an extent and then move on to another idea. So let's just develop an idea and resolve it nicely, right? Same chord progression. Right? So those are a couple of ways to develop an idea and then resolve it. Yeah, when you're developing ideas, what you could also do is you can, it's about repetition, right? You can repeat it to establish your idea and then move on to a new idea, or keep repeating that maybe in a different chord too, right? So how about this? right? You can develop your ideas, maybe move on to new ideas, or just resolve your ideas and then start a new idea fresh. That's one way to do it. Okay, so another tip we're going to talk about is displacement, right? There's a couple ways you can displace an idea. You can displace it in time, like put it in a different spot in the measure. Let's try that first. So, right, we're just starting it on the first beat of the measure. Now let's go take it in a different place. Right, now it lives there. Now back to the first beat. Put it there now. Maybe a different place now. Right, so you can change it you can displace an idea by putting it different places in time, in the measure, in the bar, but you can also displace it melodically. So you want to maybe do it in a different chord. How about this? Wait, let's try that again. Let's displace it in another place in the chord, right? So that's another way to displace it. What I found is really fun to do is to try and displace it up a half step when you're playing. It helps when you're playing fast, but taking it up a half step, displacing something up a half step to a chord that's not in your progression makes it feel a little bit more out, right? Like a more modern jazz style. So that's kind of cool. So let's go try that after the G minor. We're going to displace it up a half step to A flat minor. We're going to go. And then back to the C, right? We're only going to be there for a little bit. You could be there for longer, too. You could stay on it as long as it feels right. You might just want to use it as a small little passing thing, right? Maybe when you're first feeling it out, and then experiment with where it sounds nicely and where it sits right in the progression. So let's try that progression again, and we'll go up a half step after the G minor. So here we go. Let's go stay there a little longer now. We're going to split up the bar with the G minor. Right? Having it there a little longer creates a little bit more of a sense of tension. Maybe it's nice, though, just to have it for a little bit. And that's what a lot of displacement can do, is build tension, right? Displacement can build tension, which is a really good thing to have, especially if you're developing your ideas and you don't want to play the same thing over and over again, right? You want to build tension and release. Cool. All right, another great tool is transcribing. You want to take licks and take passages from the masters and use them in your own vocabulary. So a good way to do this is just listen to great music that you love, great players, and try to transcribe the entire solo, because that way you have little bits and pieces that you can take and apply to your own playing. It adds to your toolbox. So let's go start with a 2-5-1 lick. We're going to use, I guess in this progression, our only 2-5 is going to be G minor to C. So we're going to use a McCoy Tyner lick that he uses on Satin Doll over this, and it goes like this. Wait. right? So that's a cool little lick we can throw in there. Maybe we can develop an idea into that. So let's give that a try. I like that. Right? So you can develop ideas into those 2-5-1 licks, right? If you put them in your tool set and keep them very close and practice them in all 12 keys, you can develop your ideas leading up to that. So a way to do that is to echo the chord before it even happens, right? To try to give like a prelude to the chord. And that's what I'm doing with this G minor arpeggio. So, and then the lick comes. That's a displacement too. Right? Okay, so now the fifth tip is to connect all those things together, right? Try a solo where you connect your fourths, you develop ideas, you displace your ideas in time and melodically, and then you add some transcribed licks onto that, right? Okay, so let's do it. Here we go. There's fourths. But these are also ideas that I'm developing, right? Those are ideas getting developed. Now let's go try some displacement. Now let's try a lick. That's a 2-5-1. Transcribe McCoy Tyner. Alright, great. So try to put all those ideas together. Try to get all the ideas that you know and that we talked about today, and maybe come up with a solo. So that's kind of the sixth tip of this video is don't be afraid to write out a solo. Write out something interesting, right? You might want to have an idea, right? Say, I'm going to start with fourths, and then I'm going to develop those ideas, and then maybe I might take those fourths and displace them somewhere, make them sound a little out, right? And then add a transcribed lick that you have, right? I used a 2-5-1 lick, but maybe you could use a lick in fourths. Yeah, something to keep the vibe of your playing. So let's try that. Take all of those things, don't be afraid to write out your own solos and come up with ideas in those solos. It's good to have a game plan and a roadmap sometimes, especially if you have a show coming up or you go into the studio and you're recording. Try to write out your solos. Try to come up with something thematic, something that feels good to you and sounds good to you, right? Keep practicing, keep playing. All right, appreciate you guys.